Great morning, fantastic morning. Hi, I'm Edwina B, y'all. Miss Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops, as you can see. But guess what? My God chose me, chose you to wake up this day. And for that, we should give him the honor, the praise, the glory, the acknowledgement, the hallelujah. Why? Because he chose you and he chose me this special day that we will never see again. So why not make the best of it and make it a great day? And more importantly, be of service to someone else. Just one, just one, just one. Okay? So today is February the 2nd. And I'm going to let y'all know that this is my anniversary month, right? It was during this time in 1990 that the road was caving in, ending a 14-year addiction. And as a result of February being my anniversary month, I am going to share little bits and pieces of my story in preparation for relaunching of my Free to Hope World Tour as a transformational speaker. And you see the announcement on the screen, and I want you to share this information, get your family, your co-workers, your sorority. I want you to get everybody. Because when we get as many people as we possibly can to join in, the goal is to touch one person, just one person. So information will be coming forth on the Zoom connection, and the cost will be, or the donation will be, or the contribution will be $33. Just $33, right? And this is going to allow you to contribute to programs that address mental illness, substance abuse, the whole gamut of attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, just to save one more. I don't need any money, but those programs do, because we never know when the student is ready, the teacher will appear, and programs need to be there like they were for me. All right. So before I go any further, let me share with you my testimonial song for today. And I will start every morning in the month of February with a special dedication as my world began to cave in, if you look at it from that perspective, but it was preparing to open up and bust and loose. But it was his grace and mercy that brought me through. Because of his amazing grace, I dedicate this song to me as a reminder while I'm sitting here before you today. We're going to get to our topic, all right? So listen up. All right. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, and now I see. I was underneath a parked car in the streets of Philadelphia, 3 o'clock in the morning, underneath a parked car, after getting high and doing all kind of sexual favors with my own stepson. Him and I were both 34, and we were both in our severe addiction. When it gets down to doing family, only grace, only grace, only grace. While underneath that parked car, my life flashed before me. How at the age of 34, Edwina, are you underneath a parked car? You had aspirations of being a model, phys ed teacher, an actress. You were the co-captain of your cheerleader team. You were even the vice president of your class. Edwina, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, Edwina? Why are you underneath that parked car? The flashbacks of my family disappointed in me, my children embarrassed by me, the self-loathing I had for myself, the addiction, the ugly side of addiction, the rapes, the beat-ups, setting people up, being set up, passed around like a bucket, spit on, and called all kinds of names. I even committed murder as a prostitute. I didn't want the world to judge me by having a baby as a prostitute. I took life. Edwina, what's wrong with you? And for the remaining 10 years of my addiction, I said, whatever happens to me, I deserve. The guilt, the shame, the remorse of everything I had done. But the most devastating one was that abortion. And it took me 10 years to forgive myself, not knowing that God had already forgiven me and already knew. While underneath that parked car, with all those flashbacks, I hollered out from the depth of my soul, whoever they say you are, take me out this life now or show me a better way. I don't want to live one more second of this vicious cycle. Whoever they say you are, I don't know you. They told me you was a bad God. They tell me you was a punishing God, that you will never love somebody like me. Take me out now or show me a better way. Voila. I sit before you today, nearly 33 years later, on the battlefield to help save just one more who was just like me. All right. So that's a little bit. So every morning I'm going to, share a little bit more about my story. Right. And so I want you to mark your calendars on February the 23rd from 7 o'clock p.m. to 8:30 p.m. I'm going to do a Zoom presentation kicking off and relaunching my Free to Hope World Tour that was stopped by COVID-19 back in 2020 when I had 30 years. And so God said, don't worry about it. relaunch, new day. Let's get this party started because there is one more. All right. So I will be having a flyer. I'll have an in Eventbrite. I'll share the information, and I want at least 3,303 people to come. Is that 333, right? 3,300 people. 33. And someone shared with me yesterday about the age of 33, how significant that was in my Lord and Savior. Yes. So look forward, pass the word around, and get ready for me to share how my journey of transparency, you heard me? Transparency and authenticity evolved to the point where I didn't look like this almost 33 years ago. No, I didn't. I didn't have but a couple teeth left. My face was sunken in. I only weighed 90 pounds. Dark circles around my eyes. I didn't look like I do now. But my God, who I didn't know, met me underneath that parked car. He met me where I was and accepted me just the way I was. And so I learned from the beginning, when he put me on the pathway to recovery, the mask must go. Starting with the physical mask that I've been wearing most of my life in one shape, form, or fashion, trying to please everybody, right? Pretending to be everybody and not knowing who Edwina is. So the question, Edwina, is not what's wrong with you. Edwina, the question is, what happened to you? And I'll be sharing that on February the 23rd. Okay? So because he met me underneath that parked car, just the way I was, and I am about total transparency and authenticity, so the mask must go. Yes. Where are you? I don't need it. I don't want it because it's not who I am. No. Huh? Every morning I get up and I do this, right? I do this, y'all. Every morning I get up and I do this, right? Huh? No, this, no, that, right? Right? Do the little bit of this, little bit of that, right? Comb it back, take a brush, right? Voila! Less than a minute. So the mask must go. I told you I only had a couple teeth. How transparent can I be? How much more transparent can I be? How much more authentic can I be? And I do this every morning. I do it at every event that I'm a speaker. Yes, I do. To show the meaning of removing the mask and focusing on the message and not the messenger. This is total transparency. This is the way I go to sleep, and this is the way I wake up. So I need you to see who I really am. And this is only the physical, because who I really am is the spirit that's coming forth as you are connecting with me, and I'm connecting with you at this very moment. These are going back in for articulation and pronunciation purposes, so we can get to the topic today, okay? All right. Here we go. All righty. Where's my glasses? Here they go. Get my glasses. Here they go. Let's get to our topic today. All right. So, welcome to February the 2nd, Perspective with Edwina B., Miss Cuckoo for Cocoa Pops, on the AA Daily Reflections, titled Rescued by Surrendering, incorporating the 5 agreements by the Ruiz family and transformational teachings of Dr. Sonja from P3 University. She's the one that said, no, motivational speaker, no, inspirational speaker, no, transformational speaker. Our goal is to help us and help others transform. Yes, transformational speaker. Yes, not just to make you feel good or to make you feel bad, but to help a transformation to occur by sharing my own experience, my strength, my hope, and my perspective of my nearly 33-year journey in this thing called recovery. From recovery, emerge empowered to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. And that's why it's called Free to Hope. And I went outside this morning and I got my logo, and it's E3. Edwina, and the number 3. And so you see what happens when you just yield and your spiritual eyes and ears are open. So let's dive in and let me share my perspective of the AA topic today, rescued by surrendering. Okay? All right, so let's go here. Let me take this off. Okay. All right, so February the 2nd, daily reflections, rescued by, that should say surrendering, right? And this comes from the co-founder, Dr. Bill W. or Dr. Bob. I don't know which one. I'm doing my dissertation, so I'm kind of filled with all this stuff. And the quote comes from AA Comes of Age, page 311. And it states, characteristic of the so-called typical alcoholic is a narcissistic, egocentric core dominated by feelings of omnipotence, intent on maintaining at all costs its inner integrity. Inwardly, the alcoholic brooks no control from man or God. He, the alcoholic, is and must be the master of his destiny. He will fight to the end to preserve that position. Woo! And the person in recovery shares his perspective. The great mystery is, why do some of us die alcoholic deaths? Fighting to preserve the independence of our ego, while others seem to sober up effortlessly in AA. Help from a higher power, the gift of sobriety, came to me when an otherwise unexplained desire to stop drinking coincided with my willingness to accept the suggestions of the men and women of AA. I had to surrender, for only by reaching out to God and my fellows could I be rescued. Oh my God. Oh my God. Huh? Rescued by surrendering. Let's dissect that. Okay? Rescued. Where in your life, in your history, have you been rescued so you can identify with what we're talking about? Did you almost drown and you were rescued? Did you fall down a hill and was rescued? Did you run in front of a car and you were rescued? Were you down and out, about to commit suicide, but you were rescued? I always have to use past tangible experiences to get in touch with the word today. I told you I dissect each word. Rescued. Okay? So keep that in mind. And it says rescued by surrendering. So many times when people who are lifeguards and someone is drowning, right? the instinct of that person is to, right? Because of the fear. It's a natural instinct, okay? It's the job of the lifeguard to put aside his ego, his pride, and let the force of the Spirit to save, to serve, to help that person surrender to him. As hard as it is to hear, but it's necessary to be rescued. So that's the best analogy that I can give, aside from the other ones, to avail that person the ability to just surrender and let me help you. The focus is saving you, right? But the challenge is getting both of us to safety. Ooh, I love recovery, okay? So let's see and dissect these words, okay? It says here, characteristic of the so-called typical alcoholic is a narcissistic, egocentric core dominated by feelings of omnipotence, intent on maintaining at all costs its inner integrity. Inwardly, the alcoholic brooks no control from man or God. He thinks he got enough to do it himself. There's something about that ego and pride that through our domestication of each other as human beings, as discussed in the 5 agreements, somewhere in our belief system that we were taught, we were trained to think that it was all about me, ego, pride. Yes. And so with some of us, if not all of us, will have eventually a knee-bowing experience where we will call out and confess with our tongue that he is, something is, and it's not me. But you have some people who refuse to submit because of what domestication has taught them about failure, about giving up, about punking out. And they refuse. So let's read on to what happens, right? So they refuse help from man and God because they often, like I used to think, had the power and the control. Hell to the no. My best thinking got me underneath that parked car. All right, so let's go some more. He says, he, the alcoholic, is and must be the master of his own destiny. He has to be. If not, what are people going to say about him? What are people going to think about him if he is not the master of his own destiny? And I had a father like that. Edward Clinton Hall Sr. Yes, the Edward Clinton Hall Sr. He was so egotistical and prideful. Where's he at now? He dead. I can laugh today because it's true, right? And so the next thing he says, he will fight to the end to preserve that position. That was my dad. And when we are talking about a illness, the alcoholism being determined, it is a disease of a spiritual nature, one that is twofold, one of compulsion and obsession. Yes, people who have the disease of alcoholism, who didn't know they have, like me, don't know they have, like you, right? Is saying that, no, that's okay, that's okay. You keep on, you keep on, you keep on. Either you're going to surrender or you're going to die. Either you're going to surrender or you're going to die. And in our literature, it states unequivocally that some of us must die in order for some of us to live. Okay, let's go down here and see what the perspective of the person says, right? He says, the great mystery is, why do some of us die alcoholic deaths, fighting to preserve the independence of our ego? Let me stop there. Why do some of us die alcoholic deaths, trying to preserve our independence? Oh my God, please get the book by the Ruiz family on the 5 agreements. Yes, that's the question. And people say, why you keep drinking it, Weena? Why you keep drinking it, Weena? Do this, do that, do that, right? But some of us refuse to submit to what is causing us all our problems. And the alcohol is just the outside substance of deeper issues, which is why that 4-step inventory is so crucial, to find out what happened to you, Edwina, not what's wrong with you. You had the disease of alcoholism and you didn't know it. You thought that you could, and you thought that you could, but guess what? The more you fought, the deeper you dug yourself, to the point where you put yourself underneath a parked car. Yes, but some of us won't even do that, right? So he goes on to say, right, help. And so it goes on. It says, while others seem to sober up effortlessly in Alcoholics Anonymous. Why some of us seem to sober up effortlessly in Alcoholics Anonymous. And my answer to that, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When the spiritual student becomes ready, the spiritual teachers will appear. If that's not going to happen, the person is trying to be the student and the teacher, whatever is convenient at that time. I stepped over dead bodies. I robbed dead bodies. Many people who I grew up with are dead. Why was I saved? Why was I spared? Why was I chosen? So what took 14 years in my addiction helped me to get to that knee-bowing experience where I confess to whoever they say you are, take me out this life or show me a better way. Some of us must die in order for some of us to live. Okay. Then he goes on to say, help from a higher power. The gift of sobriety came to me when an otherwise unexplained desire to stop drinking coincided with my willingness to accept the suggestions of men and women of AA. This is what I mean. This is what I'm doing. Sharing with you my experience, my strength, my hope, particularly as I relaunch my world tour, Free from Recovery, Emerge Empowered, to give hope to others, help others prosper equally. Why? Because I have the experience, like millions of others, that desire to either die was not as strong as the desire to live, but I couldn't make the choice. I just had to be ready for this God who I didn't know to choose for me. And so a higher power, yes, a higher power could take the form of the rehab, the recovery programs. All of those things were powers greater than me that can help restore me to sanity, soundness of mind. So we begin to take the suggestions. Right? Where you at? Where you at? Right? It says here, begin to accept the suggestions of men and women of AA. I had to surrender. And so the suggestions, we're going on a skydiving escapade. We're all going to jump out. I'm going to put on my parachute. I suggest you put on yours. But if you don't, I'll see you at the bottom. You get my drift? The suggestions. There's something about telling people what to do, particularly alcoholics. Don't tell me what to do. That's why Alcoholics Anonymous makes suggestions. I had to surrender. Right? He says, I had to surrender. For only by reaching out to God and my fellows could I be rescued. I'm so glad I surrendered. I'm so glad for his amazing grace. I'm so glad that you get to meet me, and I prayerfully get to meet you as we trudge the road to recovery. We practice not giving anything or anybody that much power ever again to make us go back to drinking, but more importantly, to not be prepared to be of service to God because of his amazing grace. If it's God's will we meet tomorrow, I'll see you then.